Good morning. Welcome to First Mover, your first global look at today's action in the Bitcoin, blockchain, and digital asset space. I'm your host, Christine Lee, and joining me are my co-hosts, CoinDesk Managing Editor of Global Capital Markets, Lawrence Lewitinn, and Managing Director of International Content, Emily Parker. Good, happy Tuesday morning, you two.
Good morning.
Happy Tuesday to you.
All right. Looking in on Bitcoin today, it's a bit down. We see Bitcoin trading at 55,500 and change. Bitcoin is down about 3.7% over the past 24 hours. And the ETX Ether Price Index is trading at 3978, down from that all-time high, just over 4,000 yesterday. ETH is down about 3.6% over the past 24 hours. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the CoinDesk brand, trusted globally as a leader in crypto news, events, and data. So, Lawrence, we see that the crypto markets are down along with global stocks. What's going on?
Yeah, listen, relatively, this is kind of a quiet day in the market. I mean, we're going to see days like this, right? All CoinDesk 20 assets are down, except for Year in Finance, which was up 20-something% today. Not even Tom Brady's laser eyes could do anything for Bitcoin. As Umkar Goodbully wrote, we are seeing some of the larger holders, the so-called whales. There are fewer and fewer of them, meaning that some of them are either letting go of their positions or else they're splitting up their assets. You can't quite tell for certain which way it's going. But if we step back a bit, we've been in the $50,000 range for almost a month, except for a couple of dips that happened a couple of weeks ago where it went into the high 40s just for a day or so, not even. So it's kind of, we're range bound. And it's kind of like what we were a few months ago when we were range bound, but that was back when prices were in the 10s and 9s. We know what happened after that. That doesn't necessarily mean we'll see another move on the upside that way. We could easily see it on the downside, but it seems like we're range bound for a while. We can't get over 60. So we're just kind of sitting there and waiting.
Yep. Well, behind the scenes, there are moves being made. Emily, PayPal co-founder investor Peter Thiel, who weeks ago was in the news saying Bitcoin could be used as a weapon against the U.S. dollar, is back in the headlines. This time he's backing a crypto exchange. What's he doing?
Yeah, so it's actually Block One, which is backed by Peter Thiel. As we know, Peter Thiel has his hands in many different investments, but this is a kind of a big news. Block One is injecting $10 billion in a crypto exchange, which apparently is going to be known as Bullish. That seems to be the name of the crypto exchange. And it's going to combine the existing blockchain infrastructure with DeFi. So this is a pretty big investment. And as you mentioned, there is some degree of irony here because Peter Thiel recently made waves by claiming that Bitcoin was a tool of the Chinese government and that the U.S. should really be on guard about it. But yet, some of his investments are flowing into the cryptocurrency space. So I guess he doesn't think it's such a problem that it's a tool of the Chinese government, in his view.
Let's take a look at the crypto markets.
The Crypto Markets Update is presented by Grayscale, the world's largest digital currency asset manager.
All right, so joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is Ulrik K, Lykke, Executive Director and Portfolio Manager at ARK36 in a crypto investment fund. Welcome to the show, Ulrik.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Hi, everyone.
Good to have you. All right, so as we mentioned, the crypto markets are slightly down today, along with the rest of the world in the equities markets. So in your view, what is going on? Are we due for a move lower or higher?
Well, I would love to give some dramatic input here, but as was said previous, this is just another day in the markets. There's not really a lot going on if you focus specifically on the crypto markets. We've been trading in this range for 84 days, something like that, since we broke up into the 50s. And since then, nothing really significant has broken the trend, so to speak. Yeah, we've seen some significant dips. Some drawdowns have been done to a lot of traders. The derivatives and leverage traders were wiped out with some of the more significant ones, but now it seems like the markets are getting cooled off. So to me, there's not really a lot going on, to be honest. The overall trend is still intact, in my view.
Ulrik, good morning. We hear a lot about institutions still poking around crypto, taking on positions here and there. But the alt markets, of course, have taken off over the past few weeks. Is that a sign that retail has now regained control of the crypto markets and regained control of the narrative, or is it still a situation where the future is going to be dictated by the institutions?
It's a twofold question there, because if really, I'm not sure if I agree if the markets are dictated by the institutional investors. I think at the end of the day, the markets are still powered a lot by the retail investors. I think, though, the narrative, and this is the second point to it, the narrative about institutional money and professional capital joining the markets and entering, that's really something that's driving expectations in the market. And this is, again, empowered the actions of retail investors. There is a point of the many on-ramping options and opportunities being wildly better off than it was in the previous bullish cycle. So definitely, I still see an interest. We can just feel it on our own little perspective in our own company, with more professional actors basically looking to enter.
We're going to see some earnings coming out soon from Coinbase and others. What are you expecting?
That's a good question. Coinbase is a little darling, being the crossover of the cryptocurrency markets and the more established markets now being traded on the stock markets. At the end of the day, when the Coinbase was listed on the public exchanges, it proved to be, again, something that would drive up expectations. But at the end of the day, it did not seem to really consolidate in the price itself. So, to be honest, I'm not sure if it would prove anything more than an indicator of how profitable it is to set up structure in this space. And this, again, also entails some of the other news of more and more professional exchanges, prime brokers joining the space, Peter Thiel going in with a massive investment, these kind of news.
Look, we saw we had a piece today or yesterday by Dominic Dantes on our site covering what Fundstrat had discussed in one of their analysis, which is that the whole Ethereum Classic trade is basically covering short positions and from people who were originally who loaned their Ethereum Classic out to the Grayscale fund, which Grayscale, of course, is owned by DCG, our parent company. But are there any trades like that? And that, by the way, was what explained the run up, potentially the run up in ETC, people covering those positions. Are there any trades like that out there in the market besides ETC right now?
Well, it's a good question, really. It's very difficult to find these opportunities where you have something that is basically two sides of the same thing, but where you can trade them independently of one another. Personally, I think an asset like ETC has topped for a long while now. I saw the sentiment, of course, overheating when it actually went up, and this brought some belief to the traders who still had a conviction that this was the true immutable Ethereum. But at the end of the day, I think ETH is where the future lies for Ethereum.
Ulrik, where do you think will be the move for Bitcoin by summer and the end of the year?
I think to the short to medium term time frame, I think Bitcoin is somewhat in a cooling phase right now. I think it's promising hope for institutional and say more professional investors to actually see that just the technical outlook of Bitcoin is just cooling off a little bit, and we don't have this vertical price increases that we've seen over the last many months. I expect the long-term trend to still be intact. I would not see this bull trend ending anytime soon, and I think we're in for a very good summer. Let's put it.
Do you have a price target, Ulrik?
It's always interesting to put some good guesstimates on price targets, but I wouldn't be surprised to see another zero on the Bitcoin price.
All right, that's pretty bullish. All right, Ulrik, thanks for joining us this morning.
Cheers.
Right, that was Ulrik Lykke, Executive Director and Portfolio Manager at ARK36. Coming up, a look at headlines in Asia and an insurance company that pays out claims in Bitcoin. Time now for the daily forecast, an update on what's happening in the Asia crypto markets. Here's Angie Lau of Forecast News.
Welcome to the Daily Forecast, May 11th, 2021. I'm Angie Lau. Let's get you up to speed from Asia to the world. A forecast exclusive as nearly everyone continues to seek out new opportunities in the crypto space. One firm with roots in Asia has taken the lead in capturing investors' imaginations. Now, two-year-old Hong Kong-operated FTX reports a 25x year-over-year increase from April of last year. FTX is one of the industry's leading derivatives exchanges, most well known for pioneering in creative financial instruments like tokenizing stocks, including Coinbase's public listing pre-IPO. Investors got to make bets in Coinbase before it even went public. But ingenuity has also raised regulatory concerns. So how does FTX think about this? We spoke with FTX founder and CEO Sam Bankman-Fried on the firm's 2-year anniversary. FTX's secret to navigating through some regulatory obstacles? Licenses.
Right now, you can't actually withdraw any of the tokens, any of the stocks as tokens from FTX. And so it is really more like a traditional brokerage offering, but that might change. And, I think it's something we and others are looking into is, what it would take to get to the point where these could become actually free floating tokens on the blockchain. That will require some more regulatory legwork. The core piece of the answer is that, there's a license for this. And I think our philosophy is always get a license when there is one.
Others in the industry are watching closely as well. Hashkey Group Chief Operating Officer and Risk Manager Angelina Kwan, who also spent close to a decade working for Hong Kong Securities and Futures Commission, says regulators are likely to provide more guidance on tokenized products such as stocks.
So I believe tokenized stocks will actually follow in the same respect in terms of requirements for documentation. Regulators have already been looking at this area. It's nothing new to them. It shouldn't be any surprise, but they'll probably issue more guidance in this area as the market develops.
All right, around the markets now, Bitcoin down almost 5%. And in the top 10 for cryptocurrencies, the opposite of yesterday, we're seeing all top 10 in red. Doge is today's biggest loser, down nearly 13.5%. Meanwhile, South Korean police aren't taking getting policed on crypto well, as officers from the South Korean police are struggling to make sense of a new rule banning them from crypto trading. Some are now speaking out. One officer telling local media outlet Incheon Ilbo that criminalization and punishment of personal crypto trades is like communist state control. Another questions how police are supposed to investigate illicit cryptocurrency transactions if they're not even allowed to own it and understand the inner workings. And by the way, more rules for crypto exchanges in South Korea as well. If you want to do business as an exchange, there's legislation on the table that will expand what crypto exchanges are legally liable for, including providing cybersecurity for investors to prevent hacks and anti-money laundering. For what was once a very dynamic crypto-embracing country, we're starting to see legislation clamp down. And finally this, as many governments like South Korea grapple with crypto concerns and how to protect their citizens, sometimes legislating is not the only way. The chairman of the Monetary Authority of Singapore, or MAS, was asked in Parliament, how is the government thinking about protecting retail investors when it comes to crypto? His answer, the country's best defense is an informed public. Makes sense to me. And that's the daily forecast from our vantage point right here in Asia. For more, visit forecast.news. I'm Angie Lau. Until the next time.
So checking in on Bitcoin, the CoinDesk Bitcoin price XBX index is currently trading at $55,500 about $50. Bitcoin is down, however, about 4.2% over the past 24 hours, and the CoinDesk Ether price ETX index is trading at 39.46. ETH is down over 5% over the past 24 hours. And NASDAQ-listed Metromile will be the first insurance company to offer policyholders the option to pay premiums and accept claim payments in Bitcoin. In fact, the San Francisco-based startup is purchasing $10 million worth of Bitcoin this quarter so that if you want to be paid car claims in BTC, they can make it happen. Joining us now to discuss is Metromile CEO Dan Preston. Welcome, Dan.
Hi, it's great to be here. Thanks.
Good to have you. All right, so you're in the process of buying a Bitcoin. The price is over 55,000 and volatile. Are you sure this is a good idea?
I can't speak to the actual price, but what I will say is that fundamentally, I think it's critical for customers to have choice. So our founding principle in general was that by being able to pay on a per mile basis, we allow customers a choice of when they get to pay for insurance. And we believe that as part of that overall portfolio for customers, choosing how they get paid and pay for their premium is a critical part of that. And so I think in purchasing Bitcoin and offering that to our customers, especially as the popularity of Bitcoin and other crypto becomes more accepted, it gives us the opportunity to offer those customers more choice overall.
Dan, why would somebody need a policy in crypto, denominated in crypto? Their liabilities, if they get into an accident, they would be paid in dollars, correct? So why would they need to receive Bitcoin? And if they're paying dollars, I mean, are you setting the amount of crypto that they get paid out initially as in their policy, or is it dollars converted from crypto?
So it's effectively being remitted in Bitcoin. So it's indexed on USD. So based on what you would pay in US dollars for your premium, or based on what you would be paid for a claim in USD would then be converted into Bitcoin. And so this gives customers the optionality to be able to either pay or be paid in Bitcoin upon that actual transaction. And so in general, this creates more options. I think our general view is that as customers adopt more and more Bitcoin, they're going to choose more of their financial services to be denominated in Bitcoin overall and choose to transact in that way.
But wouldn't they have to then pay out in dollars? For instance, hospital bills and liability in the court case?
It depends on what that's being used for. So in the cases of court cases and others, typically that's not coming out of the consumer's wallet. Typically when you're being paid for a claim, you're choosing to be paid directly instead of getting your car directly repaired through a repair shop, for instance. So it's in those cases where oftentimes customers will choose either not to repair their vehicle, or if the vehicle is totaled, they'll just want the cash for the vehicle or Bitcoin in this case. And in that case, they're not necessarily then going and transitioning that to some other service. They can choose to hold that in Bitcoin however they want to at that point.
So I guess my question is that I understand this idea of giving consumers more choice and people are becoming more interested in the crypto market, but is there like a specific problem that this is trying to solve? Was there or is it just more like, okay, we just want to give people more opportunity to use Bitcoin? Like, was there anything wrong with the existing system that you created this to address?
Yeah, I think in general, it's an investment in the long term. And what I think we've seen from a lot of our customers and demand from prospects for the product is that in general, Bitcoin and other crypto is becoming a larger component of consumers' assets worldwide. And as that becomes more and more true, we're going to ultimately see is more financial services transacting in Bitcoin and other crypto. And so while today it may not necessarily be how the majority of customers choose to engage with their products, over time we expect that will start to shift. And so I think laying the foundations for this, getting our company fully versed on how to transact effectively, building the infrastructure and product experience to make that work is an investment over the next several years as that starts to become more and more accepted.
Dan, I wonder,
because for now, though, I mean, it would still require customers to take that extra step, right? Like they'd have to have a wallet, like they'd have to be like somewhere in the crypto world in order to use this effectively, correct?
I think that's right. So if you're today comfortable with everything being done USD, you may not choose to be paid or pay in crypto with us. But I think this is a reflection of how consumers today have moved many of their assets to crypto overall. And so for those who today regularly transact in Bitcoin, many of them are looking for products and services that are using Bitcoin to be able to transact overall. And so the idea here is to be able to create another option for them with their insurance and hopefully with other financial services from other companies to be able to transact in that way.
Regulatory wise, are you permitted to pay out in Bitcoin and receive Bitcoin payments? Usually, of course, the insurance industry is one of the most regulated industries in the country by state. Is there anything holding back, for instance, paying out in yen or whatever to a U.S. customer?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the starting point here is that payments will be remitted in Bitcoin. So the insurance carrier will remain in USD. Insurance carrier is one part of our kind of overall entity. And so in that way, we don't create questions around kind of Bitcoin overall. However, this is a starting point for that conversation. And so part of what we reflected, I think, in the early conversation on this is that we're making this pre-announcement as a step towards offering this very soon. And as part of that journey, we're starting to talk with regulators about what this would look like overall. So I think in general in insurance, it's a very new topic. Part of the reason why I think it's important to set the foundation today so the industry isn't catching up 2 to 5 years from now.
Dan, did you get a sense that there was a demand of this from your clients? And if so, have you thought of other coins? I mean, Doge is up $15,000 15,000% rather, year to date. And we do see some, like Tesla, considering accepting Doge for payments as well.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we get a lot of requests from prospects, from customers for crypto in general. Bitcoin obviously is I think most popular in those requests. Certainly, as the landscape evolves and certain crypto becomes more regularly part of customers' wallets, we would look to offer that same optionality to our customers in the long term. I think for Metromile, this is a first step in that direction. I think Ether and others are showing a lot of promise and are likely to become more mainstream as well. And so we would certainly look to be able to offer that optionality for our customers.
All right, very interesting. Dan, thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
That was Metromile CEO Dan Preston. Coming up, exploring NFT virtual worlds with Axie Infinity and CoinDesk's Nick Day for our daily policy and regulation update.
CoinDesk Indexes, the market standard for crypto assets since 2014. Our trusted data powers billions in publicly traded funds. CoinDesk Indexes are the standard used by institutions, and they're the key for investors looking to understand and access crypto markets.
CoinDesk Bitcoin Price Index, XBX, has been instrumental to Grayscale, enabling investors around the world to access Bitcoin through a regulated, familiar product.
CoinDesk Indexes enabled the early adopters to build crypto investment vehicles, and they're already trusted by a new generation of global investors.
Welcome back. Time to check in with CoinDesk Global Policy and Regulation Managing Editor Nick Day, who is also the editor of CoinDesk's The State of Crypto newsletter. Hello there, Nick. I hear you have an ETF update for us.
Hey, good morning. Yes. So yesterday we have another SEC filing from CBOE BZX Markets announcing that it was helping the Wise Origin Fund launch its Bitcoin ETF. Wise Origin's linked to the Fidelity investment firm, so big backers. This now makes five ETFs that are sitting before the SEC, 4 of which CBOE BZX is part of, and then 1 with NYSE ARCA.
So, Nick, your newsletter that is about Gary Gensler and his comments, which you already spoke about, but I just going into them a little bit more depth now that you've had time to really review them. What is your main takeaway personally? I mean, do you think these are positive or negative for the crypto industry?
Yeah, I think long term they're probably positive. So Gensler last week, of course, said that Congress should be getting into this idea that crypto exchanges should be regulated at a federal level. And we already know that exchanges are regulated at the state level, but there's concerns and issues, complaints about the fact that companies have to, file for money transmission licenses in every state. So the idea is a federal jurisdiction might help them, supersede that, not have to worry about the state-by-state approach. And so if that happens, if Gensler gets that to happen, that could be, possibly better for, exchanges because it'll reduce the both monetary requirement for them to, spin up because they don't have to hire as many law firms or lawyers to help them get through this, as well as the, just regulatory impact will be lessened. So I think long term, it's probably a good sign. Now, the question is, will Congress actually, act and make this happen?
Well, that's a very optimistic scenario. There's also the possibility that this should just add on a federal layer on top of a very confusing state-by-state layer, right? Like that's another scenario that could potentially happen because his comments were a little bit opaque.
Yeah, absolutely. It could just be that it's one more burden, and then that'll probably lead to just the biggest exchanges being favored because they already have the regulatory apparatus in place to meet that burden, whereas newer startups just kind of get shut out because they either don't have the funding or don't have the resources to help them tackle that. It definitely could go either way.
So, Nick, there are some other pieces of legislation right now that are trying to do some regulation of the crypto market. How would potentially Gensler deal with it? Would his rulings or his decisions on regulation, would they be stronger or would they be stricter than what Congress would try to do?
So I think the big one right now is Representative Patrick McHenry's Eliminate Barriers to Innovation Act, which has passed the entire House and is now sitting before the Senate. So that bill, if signed into law, would create a working group to study the issue, which I think, Gensler obviously would have input into that, or someone from his team would. I think ultimately it would probably still be, whatever Gensler is hoping for would still find its way through in that bill. I think probably the one big issue industry proponents might have with that bill is it gives you it gives a working group 1 year to study the issue and make recommendations, meaning any action would then have to be a separate bill, separate law signed in after that, meaning, nothing's happening fast if that's the path that Congress goes down.
All right, Nick, thanks for tracking these developments. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
That was CoinDesk Managing Editor of Global Policy and Regulation, Nick Day. Don't forget to sign up for the State of Crypto newsletter on CoinDesk.com. All right, and Vietnamese startup Sky Mavis has just raised $7.5 million to grow their NFT gaming platform Axie Infinity, the most popular game on the Ethereum blockchain, where they say over 41,000 daily active users battle, collect, and earn treasure in their virtual world, generating over $15 million in monthly NFT volume and a fully diluted market cap of over $2 billion. Joining us now to discuss is Sky Mavis co-founder Jeffrey Zirlin. Welcome, Jeffrey.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Great to have you. All right, so Jeff, if you could explain to us, what is this world you have built, and with these huge numbers, what kind of revenues and profits are you generating?
Definitely. So Axie Infinity is a cute creature collecting and battling game. There is a player-owned economy. So all the pets that exist within the game are non-fungible tokens, which have obviously been getting much more popular these days. There is basically this trend towards people spending more and more of their time in these digital spaces. So, we don't see Axie as just a game. It's becoming far more than that. It's becoming a place for people to make friends, to find work within a kind of fully digitally native experience. And there was actually even a CoinDesk article that was released in August about people in the Philippines who lost their jobs and their income due to the pandemic and have actually been playing Axie to survive.
That's incredible. When you say about time spent in these worlds, just how much time are they spending, and what is the age demographic, and where are they from mostly?
So I think the amazing thing that we've seen is that Axie, because it's something that's cute and relatable to everyday people, right? Something that's similar to Pokemon. It's been able to appeal to an amazingly wide demographic. So we have grandmothers that play, and we have, very young, children who are playing, right? And these are obviously people who aren't your typical blockchain user. So I think that's the potential for games, and specifically for Axie, is to introduce blockchain to people who have never used it before. And I think at the end of the day, that's what's needed for us to move this
Do you see that as something happening
forward.
in the future where people are living most of their lives in these virtual worlds rather than the physical world? And are there any concerns attached to that?
It's already starting to happen, right? We've just spent about a year inside where the physical world is becoming kind of, to a lot of people at least, less attractive, right? Like you can't go outside. There's a lot of pollution. There are a lot of issues. So a lot of people, and especially in the newer generations, they're kind of opting out and choosing to spend more and more of their time playing games. And if people are spending money within these virtual economies, right, that then creates forms of income and labor that gamers can kind of migrate towards.
Jeffrey,
So
you had
the
an
phenomenon
interesting
you're describing, gaming and just the kind of social aspect of gaming, I mean, this is not a new concept, right? This has been going on for a while. This is a very global phenomenon. So can you explain where does this intersect with NFTs and blockchain? Like what is the purpose of blockchain in these worlds, and why do you need it? And because you guys are taking gaming to a next level, but can you explain to us the purpose of blockchain technology in this world?
Sure. Blockchain allows us to give complete and irrevocable property rights to our players. It allows them to sell their NFT game assets to anyone, anywhere in the world. It allows us to tokenize the in-game resources so that there are, free markets for these resources. Whereas in traditional games, these are, gamers are forced into black markets or gray markets, and basically, right, very kind of centralized, closed systems, right? So our whole philosophy is that if we give our players more property rights, more economic freedoms within our games will eventually become much larger than if we were to try and keep centralized control over the economy. And I think
But the idea of selling digital assets in the gaming world is again not a new one, right? There's always been that concept. So just to explain, like why does blockchain take that to the next level? Because there's always been a way to kind of sell digital assets within the gaming world.
Sure. So I've been a gamer my entire life. I was always trying to make money playing games, and I was always running into terms of service violations, getting banned. So we're basically forced into black markets, gray markets, and blockchain allows us to legalize, right, and just make these markets accessible to anyone, anywhere in the world.
So you guys had an interesting origin story, right? The way you all came together. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so a lot of the co-founders actually met playing CryptoKitties, and we kind of immediately noticed and believed that NFT gaming was going to be a huge thing. And okay, if CryptoKitties was kind of a proof of concept, something more akin to Beanie Babies, what was going to be the Pokemon of this trend? So yeah, we've been building since early 2018. It's been an amazing journey. I think we have one of the strongest communities in crypto and blockchain, and it's been just an amazing.
But you met virtually in the virtual space and not in the physical space first, and where is everybody located?
Yeah, so I'm American. I had and we have one Norwegian on the team, and then we have three Vietnamese other co-founders. The two original founders of Sky Mavis are both Vietnamese, and so I actually discovered the project as a community member, and I just jumped in and started working. So it was definitely right. We had never met each other in real life until about 5 months in. I think that's not necessarily a abnormal story in NFTs and DeFi.
Just to my earlier question, how much in sales and profits does Sky Mavis make off of Axie Infinity, and what do you plan to do with this new round of funding you've raised?
Definitely. So we own around 20% of Axie Infinity through a governance token. And so basically all fees. So we take a 4.25% marketplace commission. We also have a breeding fee. And these fees go into a treasury. Right now, Axie Infinity is generating ETH at a annual rate of around $12 million. Also we own around 20% of that. So yeah.
And your plans for this latest funding round?
Yeah, we're looking to expand the team really aggressively. We have access to really deep pools of engineering talent, art talent, game design talent here in Vietnam. I think that's one of our advantages, is that we can kind of do this geo arbitrage where we can deploy to a global market, but we also have the advantage of having really deep pools of talent in Vietnam through our basically through our two original founders.
All right, Jeff, thank you so much for joining the show. Very interesting, very frightening as well, as I don't know about living in the virtual world for 24/7 yet, but thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, that was Jeffrey Zirlin, co-founder of Sky Mavis. Time now to check in with Crypto Twitter with our tweet of the day. This one from Andy Leon in Singapore, who is a blockchain advisor at Hyundai, tweeting, Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg's goats are named Max and Bitcoin, according to a Facebook post that Mark posted. Is he hinting to us that he is a BTC maximalist and ditching stocks? Perhaps that could lend to a pop in Bitcoin later on. We'll see. All right, that's it for First Mover. Coming up tomorrow is special guest Dominic Williams of Dfinity. Thank you, Emily Parker, our CoinDesk Managing Director of International Content, and Lawrence Lewitinn, Managing Editor of Global Capital Markets. I'm your host, Christine Lee. I'll be back live at 3 p.m. with All About Bitcoin. Coming up at noon is The Hash. You're watching CoinDesk TV.